So, the Walther PPQ M2, the new 2013 edition of the already famous Walther pistol. What do I think so far? My first impressions are, right away I noticed that it's got a lightweight and it's got a great ergonomic feel. The controls are great on the gun, easy to operate, good positioning and good design. The gun points very well. It's a good natural extension of your hand. The sights on the pistol are good. The standard, out of the box sights that are provided are good. Recoil management. I found recoil management of the PPQ to be very good, excellent in fact. I would rate it right up there with the pistol that I consider right now to be the modern pistol with the best recoil management is the Smith & Wesson M&P line, and I would put the PPQ right up there, maybe a half a notch below, but definitely very good. There's a couple things I think that help attribute to that. Number one is the PPQ seems to have a pretty stiff recoil spring. I do not know the specs on that. I apologize if I'm able to reference that. I'll put that in the information. But that definitely helps because it is going to allow the gun to absorb a lot of the energy. There is a little bit of a downside to that. If you're a reloader, you need to make sure that you are providing loads with enough pressure to operate the gun and make it function very well. I'm a reloader. I did try some light loads through the gun, and every once in a while the slide wouldn't lock back, or I might have a stovepipe, something that's indicative of not enough ammunition pressure to function the pistol. So did not have any issues with any brand of factory ammo, and I ran several through it. So that was attributed only to hand loads. I also find that the backstrap design of the PPQ, the ergonomics, is also very much helpful in terms of recoil management, because what it does is, I'll just give a sort of a quick example. The ergonomics put this backstrap really in line with a natural grip. If you can see the line in my hand and then see how that pistol fits in, and what that does is that forces your wrist forward. It forces a nice straight line on the top of your forearm and forces a wrist forward presentation like this, as opposed to something like this. And when you've got that wrist forward, that's going to give you a nice straight body line to absorb the energy. So I think that makes a difference. So I think the best way to evaluate and or talk about and review the Walther PPQ M2 is to go down the official list of grins and gripes. What are my grins and what are my gripes? Well, it's going to be mostly grins. I can tell you that right now. But let's go through the list. First up, trigger. Trigger. You're going to be hard pressed to hear anyone talk about the Walther PPQ, either the initial offering in 2011 or the new M2 offered now in 2013, without hearing a lot about the trigger. And I heard it, and until I experienced it, I had hopes and expectations, but I didn't really understand just how good it is. This trigger is incredibly smooth. A baby's butt wishes it was as smooth as this trigger, and a piece of fresh celery wishes it was as crisp. What a combination! Smooth, crisp, light but steady and firm. It's really, it's hard to find anything wanting at all in the trigger. There's about a 1/2 inch take up in the operation of the trigger, and I found it to be about a 1/8 inch reset. And again, it's very crisp. I think I talked a little bit about some of the trigger in my unboxing, but let's take just a really quick look at the trigger. We have a clear gun, we have an empty chamber, we have no magazine, we see daylight. So we're now cocked. If we go to from initial cocked position, our take up is about that distance, and then clean break, and then our reset, very short and extremely tactile. Good feel, good audio feedback. So you got a nice crisp click, a nice crisp feel, and then you're ready to go again. So it's you know, it's the perfect double tap pistol. It's a better double tap pistol than I am a double tap shooter. I can say that. It is you know, once you get the feel for the operation of this trigger, it's incredible how fast you can shoot it, and how much fun you can have doing that. The trigger is the single most amazing quality about this pistol, and if you've never experienced it and you're able to see, you know, get a hold of one of these, even to look at it at the gun shop, or if a buddy's got one or whatever, you just got to try it. Let's do some trigger pull tests, and I'm going to do 10 pulls and then take an average. This trigger pull gauge that I have will automatically calculate an average for me. Let's see what our average is. Alright, let's see if I can take the glare out of this. The 10 pull average is, you should be able to see here now, is 5 pounds 3 ounces exactly. So in 10 pulls we had an average of 5.3, or not, it's not 5.3, 5 pounds 3 ounces. I'll have to do the math because it'll be 3 ounces divided by 16 ounces in a pound, so that'll be the decimal. What does that mean, you know, in terms of relating it to other guns if you're not familiar with that? Let me try and do that. Maybe I'll show you like a Glock 17. Chances are you have fired a Glock 17, or you've at least handled one and dry fired a Glock 17. And so to give you a comparison of the two, let's take a few measures, just a few. I'm not going to do a 10 pull average, but let's just do a few here. So our average, and I forget how many pulls that was, but our average was 7 pounds 8 ounces. So that's exactly 7.5, exactly 7.5 pounds. So 7.5 pounds versus just barely over 5 pounds, and you really do feel that difference. And there's a smoothness, that was easy for me to say, there's a smoothness in the Walther PPQ trigger that you don't have in the Glock trigger. That's hard to quantify. That's something you'd have to feel. The trigger safety, which is very similar to the Glock safety, very similar to Springfield XD line and XDM line safety. This is the only external safety on the pistol, and it is, you know, it ensures that this trigger safety is depressed all the way down before the trigger can be operated and the striker can be released. Ergonomics. Excellent ergonomics in the Walther PPQ. Let's talk about what some of the specifics are, to me at least, the points of of the pistol or ergonomics that really jumped out at me as making a difference. The first thing you're going to notice, with any pistol is the grip. How does it feel? How does it feel size-wise? How does it feel shape-wise? How does it feel texture-wise? So, taking those things into consideration with the grip, I think they've hit a home run here. They have a very ergonomic backstrap. This dog leg, for lack of a better term, somewhat controversial, perhaps, but I found it to be very good. I think, I've talked about the wrist position that it gives you. So I like the backstrap shape. I like the design. It has some decent finger grooves in the front. Not quite as deep as a Glock, but in that fashion. The texture is an interesting kind of a swirl, and then you've also got some palm swells, for lack of a better term, on both sides. And on this is interesting because it kind of makes the gun less slippery, if that makes sense. It gives your hand a texture to dig into a little bit. And again, you have these swirls, this swirl pattern. And let's see if we can give you a little closer look at that. But this is you've got these raised swell areas that are sort of almond shaped on the sides, on both sides of the grip, and then you've got the stippling, which is this sort of rounded swirl pattern. Almost reminds me of machine marks, like somebody had a milling machine and just was touching a surface with it or something. That type of a design. But it works very well. It gives you a very good grip. And just because of the time of year it is right now, and I've done a lot of my initial testing under very hot, humid conditions with very sweaty hands, and this has done a very good job of allowing me to maintain a good grip. Fit and finish. Very good fit and finish. The quality of the Walther is evident throughout. When you first pick it up, you first look at it, you can see that from the tenifer coated slide to the polymer frame, all the parts, just the way they fit together, the way the slide feels when you work it, when you run the slide, very little play side to side in the slide. You're dealing with a top quality product in both design and workmanship. Another thing about the ergonomics is probably the single most noticeable change for the M2 of the PPQ, and that is the magazine release. Magazine release previously was the trigger guard variety, and they've switched it over to the traditional, or at least more traditional for folks in America, frame-mounted button. And the ergonomics of it are extremely good. It's very, it's a large button. It pushes really nice. It's got a great feel when you push it. It's got a nice positive ejection of the magazine. Very good, very easy to use. Big thumbs up for the magazine release. Another thing I found really easy to use was the slide lock release lever on the pistol. Both manually locking open the slide and releasing the slide lock is very simple. It is an ambidextrous slide lock lever. It's very long. I mean, it starts, here's the pivot point, and you're coming all the way back to here, so it's a very long one compared to most pistols. The shape of it is nice. It's got a fairly rounded shape, so that it's not a snag point, which is nice. But it also sticks out enough so that you can give this a swipe of the thumb and engage it pretty easily. with pretty good, pretty good functionality. It's also nice when you want to lock the slide open manually to be able to just raise that easily with your thumb. So it's very good functioning slide lock and release mechanism. Another ergonomic feature of the PPQ is the trigger guard itself. It's a very large trigger guard. If this was a duty pistol and you were wearing gloves, or if you like to wear gloves when you shoot because of conditions or whatever, you're not going to have any problem being able to get a gloved finger in there without compromising safety and dexterity. It does have the front serrations on the trigger guard. If for those folks who do like to put an index finger in on their grip up there, I've never been one to like that grip, but for those who do, there are some serrations there, and they feel like they would do a good job. Another thing I really like about the overall ergonomics of the pistol are the serrations on the slide. They give you a really nice grip, no matter whether you like the overhand or the slingshot method, whether you want to do the the press check method. Whichever way you use them, they work very nicely. They're just deep enough, just aggressive enough to give you a really good grip. One of the things I really like about the Walther PPQ is the ease of field strip. The takedown is very simple and easy, and if you are a Glock owner or are used to or familiar with the Glock mechanism or the Glock method of field strip takedown, you will be very easily adapted to the Walther PPQ. It's virtually the same. So we basically want to use the exact same technique. So we just want to lay the gun in our hand with our thumb underneath the grip tang, or beaver tail if you prefer, index finger just in front of the rear sight, and then just using a sort of a squeezing motion, just bring that slide back a little bit. Now right here, a little less noticeable than on the Glock, are the takedown release. So, and there's one on either side. They're a little bit different, but they're virtually the same functionally. And we just pull those down to release the catch, and then our slide will slide right off. Again, you may need to pull the trigger to uncock the striker if the striker was cocked before that slide will come off. So there you have your major disassembly, and you're able to remove the recoil spring, remove the barrel, and there you have it. That is all there really is to field stripping. Obviously you're going to do some cleaning, and you're going to do your lubricating, and then you're going to reassemble and reassemble. Again, very simple, he says, as he struggles to get the barrel in. All right, so you slide your barrel in, put your recoil spring and guide rod assembly. The blue hat goes to the back. It goes on the barrel lug, and we just get that caught. There's a little ledge that catches on. And reassembly, you simply position the grooves in the slide against the slide rail, the 4 slide rail posts on the frame. Put it all the way back, and then rack it. That's it. Do a function test. Simple. Okay, so what about accuracy? Based on everything I had heard of and read about the PPQ, the first version was that it was incredibly accurate, and so my expectation when I acquired the M2 was that it was going to be no less accurate. So I did have a high expectation that the PPQ M2 would be an accurate pistol, and based on all my evaluations so far, it is just that. It is very accurate. It was the very first target I fired it at. I did from a bag rest. Very first time I shot the gun, so that I could see where it was. And then the target you see before you right now was very recent, after hundreds of rounds had been through. So this is sort of a post break-in, if you will. And in both cases, the pistol is very accurate. This is, I have two areas where I shot the PPQ at this target. First, starting at the center, and this is using PMC bronze, 115 grain full metal jacket or hardball ammo. A very standard and typical, off-the-shelf type of ammo. It's not meant to be match grade or target grade necessarily, but very indicative, certainly, I think, of something you're likely to pick up at the store and go shooting with. And I did have one flyer up here. I definitely will attribute that to me, and you sort of throw out the high, throw out the low, and that one gets, I'm going to throw that one out as just being me. But if you look at this group, and this is a 20 round group, you've got a lot of them eating out the same hole. And if you look at this is a nice target to use because it's got the 1-inch grid on it. And so if you look at the height and the width spread of this group, the entire group is within a 2.5-inch spread. And again, this is just me holding it on a bag. This is not scientific. There's no, I didn't have it in any kind of a machine rest or anything like that. So, no ransom rest was available to use. Just me hand holding it outside in the heat with sweaty hands, and all the human error that can go into that. Same thing with this group up here. I just, moved targets. Another 20 round group. And we had one that flew a little high up here. The rest of them extremely tight, tighter even than this group. And so, again, this was recent. This was, after many hundreds of rounds have been put through the pistol. So I definitely would consider this to be a sort of a post break-in, if the PPQ even does require a break-in. I found it to be very accurate right out of the box. I have not seen much difference in the size of groups between brand new first fire and after 300-400 rounds. Didn't see a whole lot of difference. So in summation, would I say that the PPQ is an accurate pistol? I absolutely would. Okay, so what about the sights? The standard sights on the Walther PPQ are a 3-dot combat style configuration. They are polymer construction, and they are not night sights. They are not tritium, so they have no glow-in-the-dark or nighttime visibility built into them. They are just a standard 3-dot configuration. The rear sight is adjustable for windage. The front sight, the only way you would be able to adjust the front sight would be to change the front sight post with a higher or lower one, which are available, I believe, as options or accessories. But the rear sight you can adjust for windage. But I found the sights to be very good. I found them to be quick pickup, easy acquisition to target, easy to use. And I really didn't have to give them any thought. And to me, I guess that's probably as ringing an endorsement as there is that I really didn't think that much about the sights. I just used them, and they were very intuitive, and I was able to shoot very well. So there is some airspace between the front sight post and the rear notch in your sight picture, and let's see if we are able to show you that here on screen, and I'll see if I can sort of pan in on this to let you see that gap. I know that does bother some people. It does not bother me. I did not have any problem with it. If anything, I looked at it as, okay, well, now I have the ability to be, even more precise within my You know, if you've got that white dot inside that notch any place, that's a hit. But now you can be even more precise with your hit. So I kind of looked at it that way to sort of make lemonade out of that. Well, what about gripes? Surely there has to be at least one gripe. Well, you know, at this point in time, that's really all I've come up with is one gripe. And my single gripe is that the PPQ M2 comes with 2 magazines. I'd really like to see it come with 3 magazines. That's not unheard of. That's becoming a fairly standard thing, especially for a pistol in this price range, in this class. I would like to see it come with an extra magazine. And the other part of that gripe is that from what I've seen so far with my research, the magazines for this pistol are difficult to find, and when you do find them, they're very expensive. Why the Walther PPQ M2? You know, what's it best suited for? What's it not suited for? You know, what is its mission in life? What is you know, what's its aptitude in the role of handguns? Well, I'll give you my thoughts and my opinions. Certainly, you know, I don't claim to be an expert on anything, but I'll tell you what I think about it. I think as a range gun, as a target shooting gun, you know, I mean serious target shooting, obviously plinking, I think it's absolutely well versed for that. You know, even with a 4-inch barrel and you know, being a small in size gun, I think it's great for, you know, being a target gun, just a range gun. It's fantastic fun to shoot. It is it's tireless shooting. You can shoot this all day long at the range and you will run out of ammunition before you're tired of shooting this gun. Duty gun. Well, I think in Europe it's probably very much a duty gun. I don't know of any agencies or you know, police departments or anything in the United States that issue Walther, but I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there are some. It's not a widespread issue gun, but certainly is capable of and designed to be. I mean, the PP stands for police pistol. You know, in the Walther line of products, that's what PP stands for. The PPQ, I believe, is police pistol quick. I think the Q is literally for quick. All right, what about home defense? How would the Walther PPQ M2 perform as a home defense gun? In my personal opinion, I think this gun would perform very well in that role. It's reliable, it's accurate, it's easy to shoot. You know, we talked about ergonomics and all that. It's you know, has a very good standard capacity of 15 rounds in the magazine, and that's important. And the other thing is, you know, with you know, with a female shooter or a junior shooter, you know, that may be required in the household to, you know, have to use this tool in defense of the home. This could be, you know, a very, very good choice because, again, it fits itself well to a smaller hand. The recoil management is very good. The sights are very easy to use, and so forth. So, you know, the smoothness of the trigger, it's just a very easy gun to shoot. It would be an easy gun to train with, so you could train other members of the family, and they would probably enjoy that training. And so I think it's an excellent, excellent gun for that. It also has, you know, because of the, you know, it does have an accessory rail in the front, and you could mount a light or laser to the gun. You know, it's a relatively small gun, so depending on the model that you put on there, you know, it's going to protrude, but you know, certainly this gun will accept and function very well with an accessory rail mount device, you know, such as a light or a laser. All right, what about concealed carry? I think this is a very good candidate, the PPQ M2. This is about Glock 19 in size, and Glock 19 is a very popular carry gun. So, you know, I think that you know, with the 4-inch barrel, it's got a low height. The butt of the gun doesn't stick out overly far. So I think it's very manageable if you put it into a you know, a holster with some cant and positioned it right on the body. I think this would be a very good carry gun. So, and I'm sure there's folks out there that swear by it. So yeah, I think this would be a good choice for that. And if I can get myself a holster for the PPQ M2, which right now is completely impossible to find, I will definitely try it. Well, here's a thought. What about the Walther PPQ M2 as a match gun? That's right, competition. What about taking this to the IDPA match? What about maybe even the USPSA? It's every bit as accurate as you need. It is so easy to shoot, so smooth, so ergonomic, that if I could get a couple extra magazines and I could find a holster, I would definitely try it. I would definitely try shooting a match with this gun. Okay, miscellaneous stuff. Just some sort of random thoughts. You know, sort of what haven't I covered? One of the things about the gun is, you know, when you look at it, you may notice that the bore axis is a little bit high. You can see the bore there with relation to, you know, the overall frame, and you can see that, you know, really on the back, this little indentation, this cup in the back, really is pretty much in line exactly with the bore. So when you look at the back strap and you look at the back of the slide, you see that, wow, this, you know, the bore is really high up there. Your hand goes up in here, you know, and you've got a good inch or more between the top of your hand and the bore. Yeah, you do. And normally, you know, academically, with just a slide rule and a tape measure and all that, you know, that would definitely go down on as a negative on the list. But I got to tell you, to me, it's a non-issue. The recoil was very manageable to me, and I didn't feel like this was, you know, was wanting to give me a greater degree of muzzle flip because of the high bore axis. So I think it's a non-issue. The milled serrations on the top of the pistol, I like. This is a nice touch. What this does is this helps take away the glare along the top of the slide. It allows you to see the sights easier. I think it's just aesthetically, you know, take away the functional aspect of it aesthetically, it's just a very nice touch. Loaded round indicator. This is, to me, this is kind of a why'd you bother function, or feature rather, for the PPQ. The loaded round indicator is somewhere in here, and it's on the back of the ejector, and it is supposedly a little red indicator. You can almost never see it. I'm going to give this a try with a snap cap. So this is it's an artificial round made for just this type of purpose, and I'm going to put this single snap cap in this magazine. Alright, so now we have, functionally, we have a loaded gun. It's not really loaded because that's not a live round, but mechanically we have what would be a loaded gun. Now let's see, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit for you. Can you see anywhere at any angle? Maybe this angle right here, very difficult to see, but you've got to look sort of down on the pistol from above, and right back here you can see just a little bit of red. So that's your loaded chamber indicator. I find that to be completely useless to me. You know, you are able to see it, and again we'll come back maybe from this angle, try and show it from the top, and it's going to be right in here if you're able to see that. I don't find it all that terribly useful. For the main reason is that that's never much of a feature to me on any handgun, or any gun. You know, the loaded round indicator, loaded chamber indicator, because you know, I was brought up to always be, you know, treating every firearm as if it were loaded all the time, and checking for myself and making sure that I know that that firearm is or is not loaded. And that does not mean looking at some mechanical indicator on a gun and going, oh, okay, it's not loaded. It's not loaded because I don't see anything red here, or it's not loaded because I don't see something through a peephole, or it's not loaded because I don't see, you know, the extractor sticking out, or whatever the case might be, or a little notch in the back of the striker. You know, any of those devices, they're okay. But what I'm afraid of is that people tend to use them, or learn to use them, new shooters especially, new gun owners, learn to use those in place of really knowing how to check, and really knowing how to ensure a gun is safe. So, you know, you need to look down at the chamber, you need to feel in the chamber, and then you need to know there's no magazine. So that's how you know a gun is or is not loaded. You don't do that by looking at some indicator. So sorry for the preaching on that. I'll probably edit that out, and you'll never know it was there in the beginning.